HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated US-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambi.com. Type in Accelerate.
Somewhere out there, there's a man on a park bench eating his 500th PB&J. He has no idea Papa John's has new Papadillas that are way better than a boring sandwich. With Papa John's best meats, cheeses, and veggies hand-folded into a crispy flatbread crust. Someone better tell that man. Get a new Papadilla in one of 4 flavors for just $6. Better ingredients, better pizza, better than a sandwich. Papa John's. Not valid with discounts, fees, and taxes. Extra prices may vary.
Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth with your host, Diane Helbig. Diane is a leading small business development and leadership coach, author, and speaker who is passionate about sharing valuable ideas, tips, and techniques with business professionals worldwide. Diane brings you the world's experts and gurus in all things business, whether it's sales, structure, social media, planning, or plateauing. Guests bring their expertise and energy to each episode. When growing your business is your focus, Accelerate Your Business Growth is the show to listen to. Got a topic or guest suggestion? Let Diane know. The goal is to make sure you have the information you need to move your business forward. Thanks for joining us. Settle in and enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. Today's podcast is sponsored by Audible.com. Head on over to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth to sign up for a free trial of Audible.com, where you can then explore all of the audio content that is there. And believe me, it is more than audiobooks. The Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast continues to enjoy inclusion on lists of the best podcasts to listen to. And this is because of the guests. These are people who have expertise in particular areas of business, and they join me to have a conversation where they share that expertise with all of you. Today, we are very fortunate because we have a returning guest. My guest today is Ashley Micciche. Ashley is co-owner and CEO of TrueNorth Retirement Advisors. She specializes in the unique needs and challenges that business owners face and helps them create highly successful exit plans. A frequent podcast guest and experienced onstage speaker, Ashley is not your typical financial presenter. As a 4-time humorous speech champion, she brings her award-winning style to delight and engage audiences. Thanks so much for joining me again, Ashley.
Yes, thank you for having me, Diane.
I am thrilled. Now, we're going to be talking about protecting and growing your business. And as we are recording this, we are, I'm going to say, just smack dab in the middle of a pandemic. So I am curious how someone can grow the value of their business during a pandemic.
Well, yeah, that's a great question. And it's entirely dependent on a number of factors, but the one of the hard parts about COVID is that there are some industries that are thriving and their business they had their best year ever in 2020 and are on pace to do that again in 2021. And then there are other businesses who are decimated and they won't come back from this, or they'll go out of business, or it'll forever change them. For the negative. So it's not the same answer across the board. But even if your business is struggling, I think that there are things that you can do to focus on what you can control in the business. We can't control what the death rates are or the lockdowns or how it's impacting our business in particular. But there are certainly things that you can control. And so I've been trying to encourage some of my business owner clients who are having a rough year and struggling to focus on those things rather than what they can't or wishing that it would be different.
Yeah, I like that. I'm a big believer in control what you can, monitor what you can't.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about opportunities that exist. What in your estimation, are some of the opportunities that exist right now for business owners?
Well, if you have good, stable cash flow, and you are financially in a, well positioned financially, then there are a lot of, no matter what industry you're in, there's going to be other competitors that are not in that position. So there are definitely opportunities for maybe strategic acquisition, buying inventory. If you have a competitor that has had to lay off people, I'm thinking particularly in those industries that are decimated. When we entered the pandemic, I was doing some hiring for TrueNorth, and it was so difficult to find good qualified people because the unemployment rate was so low. Like everybody who I wanted to hire was employed. And so in a lot of industries now that's not the case. So, if you're just to use more extreme examples of the hardest hit industries, like if you're a travel business or a hotel or a restaurant who is going to survive, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity out there, even when you just look at hiring and bringing on those people who have been let go, from other competitors or other businesses. So there are lots of opportunities depending on what your financial position is, what your cash flow is right now, and in what direction do you want to go? Do you want to grow? Because if you want to grow and you want to come out of this pandemic stronger than you were when we entered it, and position yourself well for future growth, now is a great time to buy businesses that are struggling, buy inventory at fire sale prices, and pick up employees from other struggling businesses. So there are opportunities that exist out there, not for everyone, unfortunately, but for the businesses who are in a stable financial position, uh, and have the ability to kind of open their eyes and see, okay, what do I want to do differently in my business in order to facilitate growth coming out the other side of this pandemic? Because we are getting, I think, much, much closer. 2021, I think, is going to look very different than 2020.
I do too, and I'm certainly hoping so. Um, and so one of the things that I really like about this is that it feels like what you're talking about is positioning yourself for the future, looking at opportunities that currently exist that can bolster your business as we work to, get past the pandemic and get back to some semblance of a normal economy.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, I started in as an advisor in 2007, so right before the financial crisis. And I remember very famously, I think Warren Buffett and how he views things is a really good example for all of us, especially business owners. So what he did was he, of course, had mountains of cash, much more than you or I, or and pretty much all of your listeners have at our fingertips. But because he was in a strong position financially and because he was looking for opportunities, not crawling back into a shell and, hoping that uh, things would pick up again, he was actively looking for opportunities. And so he made investments in a lot of struggling businesses at the time. He made investments in Wells Fargo and Goldman Sachs. And basically, it took him
Hmm.
about 18 months before he had more than doubled his money in the investments that he made in those, at the time, very struggling businesses. Um, and so that kind of lesson, I think, is one to be learned from that. This is one of the wealthiest people in the world, primarily, and his source of wealth is because he has uh, been such uh, a very just intuitive business person and looking at opportunities when there's blood in the streets. And so I think we can all learn from him and from people like him who in crisis, times of crisis, really see how they can take advantage of what's happening in order to strengthen them coming out the other side.
Yeah, it's a big mindset shift. Instead of looking at, oh, how awful things are, you look at, wow, what are the possibilities? And then you see them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I do have a question about um, business owners, because yes, we are in the middle of a pandemic. And if something happens to a business owner, how do they protect their business? That feels like something they need to make sure they have in place now, just in case.
Yeah, it's a really big problem because especially for small businesses, but actually I'm continually surprised at even kind of middle market or smaller larger businesses, not necessarily like a mom and pop type shop, but a business that has 30, 50, 100 employees, how often the business critical information lives inside of the head of the owner or maybe one key person in your organization. And so what I've been talking to clients quite a bit in 2020 and into 2021 is, how do we get that business critical information outside of your head? And it's one of the first things that I do with clients when we're kind of laying that roadmap for transferring their business and developing the exit strategy. But it's actually something that any business owner can do, and most business owners, all business owners should do, regardless of how close they are to wanting to exit. And basically what that is it's creating what I call business continuity instructions. So it's a very simple document. It's nothing, you don't have to have like a lawyer drafted or anything. You just list out who are your trusted advisors, what is their contact information, your CPA, your attorney, if you have an exit planning advisor, your payroll company. A lot of times your spouse or your key employees will not even know where the bank accounts are held. And so these can become problems, especially if the owner becomes sick or if you die. And so if either of those situations happen, owner becomes incapacitated, owner dies, especially if you as the owner are still wearing a lot of the hats in the business and a lot of the business kind of revolves around you and you're keeping all the balls in the air juggling at the same time. That's a big problem. And so your business and your family is sort of plunged into chaos if something like that were to happen to you. And so the business continuity instructions provide some order to that chaos. So you'd have the list of the trusted advisors, and then you'd have the first contacts and actions. So who should be doing the contacting? Do you want an employee to do that? Do you want your spouse to do that? What does that look like? And who should be contacted first and how? So do you want like, hey, Ashley, she kicked the bucket And you do want everybody to get a text message to inform them, or you probably, as the owner, you probably have an idea of how you want that communication flow to happen. Who should inform your employees and your customers, and how should they be informed? In my business, if something were to happen to me or my father, who's the other owner, I have a definite way that I would like our clients to be informed, primarily because I want them to feel secure in knowing that if something happens to either of us, that they're going to be okay, and they're not going to need to go looking for somebody else, right away. And I wouldn't want, our customers and our revenue kind of to flood out of the doors if something were to happen. And that is a very real danger for a lot of business owners. So, um, making sure you have a say in what happens under those circumstances. And then who do you want to take over operations, financial decisions, whatever hats you wear as a business owner, you want to designate somebody. Um, and then the other thing too that is rarely done is basically a list of all of your existing arrangements and agreements. So if you have insurance policies or a buy-sell agreement or a line of credit for the business, you need to list these out, and then tell, write in the instructions, the business continuity instructions, where can a copy of that be found? You don't have to include the agreement or the insurance policy itself, but you do have to let the person who's going to be implementing these instructions know, where can I find a copy of these critical arrangements. Um, and so those are the key things. The other thing is, if you've done a business valuation, what is the minimum value after a death or incapacitation that your spouse or whoever is going to become the new owner of that business? What is the minimum value that they should expect or demand under those circumstances? And then how do you want the business to be um, disposed? Do you want to ideally transfer to another employee? Do you want to sell it to maybe a friendly competitor? So there are lots of decisions and some guidance that you can provide while your business is not in a state of chaos, that can really help to um, prevent the loss of business value from becoming catastrophic for the business.
Wow. Those are all really great. I mean, incredible, and so important for people to think about. You have to remember, if you're the only person who knows this stuff, that it's really not helpful. That leads me to a question about family. Um, is like I said, we're in the middle of this pandemic. Is this a good time to transfer a business to a family member? And if so, why? If not, why not?
Yeah, Diane, there's never been a better time to transfer a business to family.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty ideal. So, and of course, now that we have a new presidential administration, tax policy could change very soon. So I also think that the opportunity may not be around forever, at least in how it presently is. We don't know obviously how that's going to all shake out, because none of the Biden administration tax proposals are, of course, law yet. But when they do become law and when those changes occur, family businesses will have wanted to look at this and address it and decide if now is truly the ideal time for their business to transfer ownership to the next generation. So the reason why I say that is because the most businesses are worth less today than they were at the beginning of 2020 or in 2019 because of the coronavirus. So you have this lower valuation. If you had a business that was worth 5 million or 10 million dollars or more, whatever that is, chances are it's, maybe worth quite a bit less than that. And so you have lower valuations almost across the board, except for a few industries and a few business types. But then you have the combination of that with the estate and gift tax climate that has never been better.
Hmm.
So, in 2020, if you were married, you could actually gift uh, almost 23, well, actually a little over $23 million during your lifetime to your kids, etc. Gift that tax free. And so a lot of business owners who have businesses that are very valuable and kind of fall in that category, and they want to gift their business or at least a portion of that business to their child, doing it during your lifetime versus waiting until after death is a very smart way of doing that. And with the lifetime gift tax exemption at that level, it's a most family businesses can gift that business because it falls under that exemption limit. They can gift that business and not have to pay any taxes on that. But the so it was 11, and it was a little over 11.5 million per person, and then of course it was double that if you were married. So but it was only $1 million lifetime gift exemption in 2007. So if your business in 2007 was worth 10 million, you could only gift 1 million of that during your lifetime, and the other 9 million would have been taxable at pretty high gift and estate tax rates.
Hmm.
Um, and so that went from 1 million to 5 million in 2011, and then from 2011 until 2017, it gradually increased a little bit, and then it doubled after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. At the end of 2017 was passed, so it's been $11 million that you could gift during your lifetime, double that if you were married, from 2018 and beyond. But of course, I think this is one of the areas, as far as tax policy is concerned, that has a giant target on its back, because it's a lot of revenue for the federal government that they're missing out on by having such high estate and lifetime gift tax exemptions. So I think that that's likely to change very, very soon. And if I were a business owner with a valuable business that I was wanting to transfer and gift to the next generation, I would be on the phone with my business attorney yesterday to see what can be done and what we should be doing to transfer those business assets before the tax laws change.
Wow, that's really valuable. I had no idea that's remarkable.
Yeah, most people are really confused about this, and tax policy is never
Yeah.
clear anyways, but people think, oh, they know about the annual gift exclusion, which is $15,000 that you can gift, but they think that any dollar that they gift above that 15,000 is going to be taxable. And it's not, because it qualifies under the lifetime gift tax exemptions. So really important for business owners to kind of understand the differences there and the rules and how it applies to them. And like I said, be talking to their business attorney and their tax advisor as well about this and how they can take advantage of it.
I'm going to take a quick sponsor break, and then I have some more questions for you. Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast is happy to be sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken digital audio entertainment and information. They have thousands of titles to choose from, as well as podcasts, Audible originals, guided meditations, and more. One of my favorite audiobooks is Everyone Deserves a Great Manager by Scott Miller. For me, I love being able to listen to it anywhere and across my devices without losing my place. And I think you will too. So visit audibletrial.com/businessgrowth to explore the variety of audiobooks and programs for yourself.
Okay, so I have been dying to ask you this question. Can you explain why it is that only 2% of business owners know the value of their business, or why more business owners don't know what their business is worth?
Yeah, I have some theories about it. I think a lot of it comes down to the perception of of the true value of knowing the value of your business. I think a lot of business owners sort of overlook it because they don't think that they need to know exactly what their business is worth. They could rely on rules of thumb for their industry, and their business. But the problem with that thinking though is that understanding the value of your business is really foundational to everything else that you would do to protect your business, to grow your business. If you're getting close to the finish line and thinking about your exit, you have to know what your business is worth, because if you don't, then you start with this wrong assumption. A lot of times the rules of thumb that business owner use are incorrect. um, but on the flip side, many business owners know that if they want evaluation, they're going to have to pay money for that, sometimes thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the size of their business. So a lot of business owners think, well, I'm not going to get evaluation done unless I have to. But a number of years ago, the technology changed all of that. So the technology exists today where business owners with just a few key pieces of very high level information. So these are things like, revenue and pre-tax income, things that hopefully you have at your fingertips. You can enter this data about your business into a software tool, and it will tell you immediately what your business is worth with very high accuracy. So it's very good. There's the database that we use to do these valuations for our clients has like 50 million businesses in there. Um, and it doesn't matter if you're a dental practice or manufacturing or, a law firm or, whatever your industry is, you will be able to get good comparative data for other businesses, both in your geographic area and all around the country, to help you determine what your business is worth. And then you can kind of go from there. So um, it's
Hmm.
something that we do the very first thing. In fact, before we ever start working with a client, um, we before they ever pay us a penny to build and implement their exit plan, we will actually do evaluation for them for free, because we need to know what the business is worth and they need to know what it's worth, so we can all be on the same page when we embark on this exit plan.
Yeah, right. Because otherwise, you're not starting from a reasonable place. It reminds me, this conversation is reminding me of a company that I worked for several years ago, and it was owned by a man and a woman and the man's wife. Because back then, female-owned business was, was 2/3 owned by women. Anyway, the wife knew nothing about the business, and they didn't have a buy-sell agreement, and the husband died
Mm.
tragically in a car accident. And the wife thought the business was worth a lot more than it was and didn't understand why it wasn't. And so, even though the other partner was trying to buy her out, because so she could make decisions, it just didn't work. Like none of it worked because they didn't have that information ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. So what
Wow.
happened?
Oh my God. Well, as far as I know, they're all still part. I think they brought in like an acting president, and I don't know. After I left, I don't necessarily know what happened, but I know while I was there, it was a mess. I mean, it was,
Yeah. Yeah, a good buy-sell agreement would have
yeah,
mitigated a lot of
yeah,
the messiness. Yeah. Yeah, because
exactly.
if you're the owner who's left, right, in that situation, there's two of you, you're the owner who's left, you want to be able to buy out the spouse of the other owner, so that you, like you said, you can make decisions, you can continue running the business, and things can kind of move forward from there. And a well-written buy-sell agreement will allow you to do that pretty smoothly without a lot of legal hoops to jump through, or someone kind of stalling that process. So yeah, very, very important. to have a buy-sell agreement. And going back to the business continuity instructions, knowing where to find that buy-sell agreement.
Right. You got to know where it is. That's also a good point. No kidding. Okay. Now let's talk some about making progress toward exiting. It feels to me like that really requires a strategy because, well, for so many reasons. One, so the business owner knows how they're doing heading in that direction, but also because I think a lot of them have a hard time stepping away, from day to day, so that they can be planning their exit, but also so that other people can learn how to do things. So, how do they focus on creating the exit strategy without the business falling apart in the process?
Wow, that's a tough one to unpack. So, um, yeah, so exit planning is really just laying out a roadmap for transferring your business on your terms, which kind of speaks to what you were saying. Most people are reluctant, I think, to start an exit path because they don't necessarily want to retire and leave their business completely. But actually, a good exit plan is designed around your terms, your goals, what you want to get out
Mm,
of this. And so it's not trying to force you down a path that you don't want to be on. Because have a lot of clients, and my dad is actually one of those. He's been saying for like the last 20 years, I'm gonna die in my chair. That would be the best thing that could ever happen to me, is that I just go out. I never retire because he
uh,
never wants to. He's
yeah.
like the Energizer bunny. He's got a lot of energy, and he's 60, gosh, he's 68. And so, but he's still he loves what he's doing. He doesn't know what the heck he would do with his time if he didn't continue to work. And I have lots of clients that are like this. And I have clients who are like, I want to retire. I would have retired 5 years ago if financially I could make that happen, but I couldn't. So here I am today, and they're begrudgingly in their
Mm,
business. So, yeah, so it's all about your terms. But we want to start far enough in advance and start with good planning around that exit and what your terms are and your timeline and how much money do you need and who's your ideal successor, whether that's internal or external, and all of those things, and planning those out, and putting a strategy in place for that, because that allows you the best chance to get to that finish line, whatever that is for you, with the most control over your exit. If you wait too long, then a lot of things happen that are outside of your control. Or if you die, in your chair kind of thing, but you haven't sort of laid out what needs to happen and protecting the business and transferring that after you die, that could also be chaotic. So we want to avoid all those things. So business owners, they actually don't know. I find that they're very surprised sometimes when I tell them what I do, because they're like, oh, I didn't even know that existed. But it's like a business exit advisor. We are the ones who kind of lay out that roadmap, develop the strategy, prioritize that, and then help them implement it. So it's sort of like, we're like the general contractor. It's their house, they're building it, they get to make the decisions about what happens. But my job is to know when we need to bring in the plumber and the electrician, which are the other, like the tax advisor, the attorney, and how to get from the plans all the way to the final construction when you can move in. And a good general contractor is going to know what steps need to be followed, and also so it doesn't take over your life. Because if a business owner lets their exit plan take over their life, it's going to happen to the detriment of the business. They're not focusing on the business. And a lot of times, things end up happening where you might see a drop off in sales, or there's a lack of oversight depending on how involved you are in the business. It's not a good idea for a business owner to kind of DIY their exit, because they only exit once. Most business owners are not serial entrepreneurs. They're only going to do this one time. And so there's a lot of missteps you can make along the way that can have catastrophic consequences in terms of just completely ruining your exit and derailing your plans altogether. So we have to have a good strategy in place in order to embark on that, and do everything that we can to ensure that it's going to be successful. There's no guarantees, obviously, but good planning mitigates a lot of the risks that can happen when business owners start to think about and start to make progress on their exit.
Yeah. Plus, then you have someone who knows what the plan is and can be like an accountability partner, be able to say, okay, we need to be doing this, pull them out of the day-to-day to deal with things as they're going along.
Mm-hmm.
So how far in advance should someone be planning their exit?
I always think business owners, when they're starting their business, they should be starting at that very point, at that very beginning stage, to at least sort of conceptualize what that path looks like for them, and what their exit will look like someday, even if it's 10, 20, 30 years down the road. It's important to think about it, because if you're at least thinking about it from the beginning, you're going to make some decisions that are going to be critical down the road. Like the example of the buy sell agreement. A lot of
Mhm.
people do not, if you're thinking about your exit, you have that in place. If you're thinking about protecting the value of the business, and you know avoiding messy legal battles and things like that, you are getting the documentation in place. But a lot of business owners, when they start out, they're kind of the penny wise pound foolish, and they don't want to spend the money on doing certain things like that prove to be critical later on down the road.
Right.
So there are things, obviously, you're not going to be in the trenches with planning your exit from the very beginning. But getting with the end in mind is very important. And as business owners get closer, I would say, depending on if it's an inside transfer, you need a longer timeline to plan for that, because you want to ensure that your successor, whether that's a key employee or a family member, you want to ensure that that successor is set up for success. Also, most of the time if you're going to sell or transfer the business to somebody on the inside, they don't have the money to pay you cash. And so it ends up being multiple years where you're basically paid out for the business value that is owed to you as the departing owner. And so, by necessity, a lot of times you're going to be involved for many, many years. So I think 5 to 10 years prior to when you want to exit is a good place to start. If you are wanting to do an inside transfer, if you want to sell your business and you're in a industry that's growing, and you're going to be able to readily find a buyer, then you're going to need a lot less time than that. Maybe only 2 or 3 years to get everything set up and make sure that you're doing the right things, because it's not just about the transaction. It's about so many other aspects of your exit, to make sure that after the exit, you're going to be fine financially from that this is truly a good fit. There are so many factors, maximizing the after tax value, so there's tax planning that will need to happen. So 2 to 3 years is good. I see business owners who will try to get it done in 6 months, and they end up overlooking things, and it can become problematic when you get to the point of the sale, and the sale falls apart, or they really didn't have what they needed financially to exit, or they kind of jumped into it too quickly, and they realize that they want to go back now, and they can't, because
Ugh.
there's non-competes and things like that. So there's giving yourself more time than you think you need is what I would recommend to your
Yeah.
listeners who are starting to think, I think I want to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. I think most people are surprised to learn that you really should be thinking about and doing some of the initial steps. You don't have to be engrossed in the exit process, but deciding on some of those major decisions like ideal successor, how much money do you need, what's your timeline, those are a few key things that need to happen really early on that will then dictate a lot of the other decisions that are made as you get closer down the road.
Is it, am I right if I say it all starts with knowing what your business is worth?
Yes, that's exactly right. We have to know what the business is worth. Um, and that's why I make it available to anybody who wants to use it for free because I really want owners to understand what their business is worth today, and how that's going to impact the future decisions that they make. So it's incredibly valuable as an owner to know what your business is worth. And we just have to, with the technology now, it doesn't have to be an expensive or time consuming endeavor. The technology that we use, once you gather that information, first of all, it's free. And then on top of that, it takes like 10 minutes to enter the data points and you get an instant valuation. And so it's just, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to start there with the valuation.
Yeah, boy, that's thank you. That's why I wanted to mention it again because I think it is critically important. Um, okay, so before I ask you to let the listeners know how they can find you and that tool, uh, any final thoughts or one huge piece of advice or anything we did not cover that you think the listeners should hear?
You know, what I come back to and what I find with my clients is that for the vast majority of people, they're not serial entrepreneurs. They're only going to exit their business once. And, nobody gets it right. And so I would just really encourage your listeners to work with someone that they trust. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be an exit planning advisor like myself. Um, a good exit planning advisor is going to look at all facets of the exit, not just from a legal or a tax standpoint, but make sure that you are leveraging all of your professional relationships to help you to get to that finish line successfully and so that things don't fall apart. So, getting your attorney involved, your tax advisor, an exit planning advisor, those are the key relationships that are going to, if those people are competent and they have your best interests at heart and they understand your situation, you're going to give yourself the best chance of success. So we don't want to DIY it. I see a lot of business owners try to DIY their exit and it's just too valuable, um, and it's too critical as part of your financial security and retirement to not get those things right. So yeah, you only exit your business once, and I encourage any of your listeners to really keep that in mind as they begin to put a plan in place to embark on their exit.
That is great advice. Thank you for that. And thank you for spending this time and explaining these things. I think this is so incredibly important. Will you let the listeners know, how they can find you and what you've got going on over there?
The business valuation tool that I was mentioning earlier. So that's the best way to find me because my contact information is there and everything. So if you go to TrueNorthRA.com/value my business, you'll get the free checklist that helps you to gather the information that you need to enter into the valuation tool. And then you'll also receive a link to access our business valuation tool for free. So you can go in there today. It'll take you 10 minutes. If you want to rerun the valuation or run a hypothetical valuation, you can have unlimited access to our tool, and we make it available for free to anybody who wants to use it. So it's all there at TrueNorthRA.com/value my business.
That's really great. Thank you for not only spending this time with me, but for offering that to people. I think that is a huge thing. And listeners, thank you. This is really something you need to pay attention to and take action on. Don't just, listen to it, but do something about it. I'd also like to thank our sponsor to get a free trial of audible.com so you can explore all of the audiobooks and programs that are available. Just go to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth to sign up. And get your sales strategy headed in the right direction with Succeed Without Selling, available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Full send with the driver? Check. Piercing iron through the wind? Check. Low checker, high spinner, flop to a tight pin? Check, check, and check. No matter what shot you need to pull off, there's one ball that's better for them all. The all-new TP5 and 5X from TaylorMade. With a newly redesigned dimple pattern, engineered for more distance, more control around the green, and better stability in the wind, it's the hottest tour ball in golf. So no matter what shot you face, there's one ball that's better for all. The TP5 and 5X from TaylorMade.
Hey podcast listeners, my name is Paul O'Connor and I'm the host of the Rust Belt Rundown, a show that highlights valuable insights from manufacturing executives and business leaders in Northeast Ohio and beyond. We convene these leaders for candid discussions about business, regional happenings, industry trends, entrepreneurship, and more. With a wide range of guests and topics, there is something for everyone. Listen to Rust Belt Rundown for free on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app.